The hall was silent, heavy with tension. Alien banners hung from the tall ceiling, their strange symbols glowing with soft blue light. Rows of alien soldiers stood on both sides, armed and ready, their eyes fixed on the human in chains. The human officer stood straight, his uniform torn in places, but his spirit unbroken. He looked tired, yet his eyes burned with defiance. At the far end of the hall, the alien commander walked forward. She was tall, her armor shining under the cold lights, her face a mix of beauty and fury. Her claws tapped against the floor with every step, echoing like the ticking of a deadly clock. She stopped in front of the human and stared into his eyes. Her voice was sharp and cold. "You lied to us, human. You tricked us into trusting you." The human said nothing. He only held her gaze, silent, calm, as if he had nothing to fear. That silence angered her even more. Her lips curled back and her sharp teeth showed. "You dare mock me with silence," she growled. "Tell me what you are hiding." The commander's rage boiled over with one swift motion. She raised her clawed hand and tore through the front of his uniform. The fabric ripped apart like paper, falling to the ground in pieces. Gasps filled the hall. Alien soldiers stepped back in shock. Even the commander froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. Underneath the torn uniform, the human's chest was revealed. But it was not the chest of a normal man. Strange glowing lines cut across his skin, burning like molten fire. The marks pulsed with life, spreading light through his body. They looked like scars, but they shone with power, as if something alive was under his skin. The commander could not hide her shock. She had expected weakness, shame, maybe proof of betrayal. But what she saw was not weakness, it was something beyond her understanding. Her claws, still raised, trembled slightly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "What are you?" The human finally spoke, his voice calm and steady. "Now you know," he said. Those 3 words sent chills through the room. The glowing scars flared brighter, casting strange shadows on the walls. For the first time, fear touched the hearts of the alien soldiers. Whispers spread among them. "Is he even human?" One soldier muttered. "Is this their secret weapon?" Another asked. No one dared step closer. The hall that had once belonged fully to the alien commander now seemed to bend around the human's strange light. The commander forced herself to breathe. She could not let fear show. Not in front of her soldiers. Her pride, her duty, demanded strength. But inside, her thoughts raced. Had the humans hidden this power from the galaxy, waiting for the right moment? Or was this man something unique, something even his own kind could not control? She lowered her claws slowly, carefully. Her eyes never left his scars. She tried to sound strong, though her voice carried a hint of unease. "Explain yourself, human," she ordered. "What lies beneath your skin? What power is this?" The human's lips curved in the faintest smile. He shook his head. "You wouldn't believe me even if I told you." That answer only deepened the mystery. The commander's fury returned, mixed now with fear and curiosity. She leaned closer, her voice like a blade. "Then make me believe." The human closed his eyes for a moment. He seemed to gather strength, as if holding back something dangerous. When he opened them again, his gaze was sharper, stronger, more alive. The scars on his chest pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The light spread down his arms, faint but growing. The air itself seemed heavier, charged with unseen energy. The alien soldiers gripped their weapons tighter. Some looked ready to fire, others too afraid to move. They did not know if they faced a prisoner or a storm about to break loose. The commander herself felt her legs tense, her instincts screaming at her to step back, but her pride chained her in place. She would not retreat before a human. No matter what he was, the hall remained silent, except for the steady hum of the scars glowing. The human finally spoke again, his voice echoing in the stillness. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "They made me into this, and now you see the truth." His words were simple, but they carried weight. The commander's heart pounded. Her claws clenched. For the first time, she felt something she had never expected from a human prisoner. Doubt. Was he a threat, or was he a warning of something much greater? The confrontation was no longer simple anger and accusation. It had become something far more dangerous. The alien commander realized that tearing open his uniform had not given her control. It had opened a door to a mystery that could change the entire war. And in that moment, everyone in the hall understood one thing. The human was not just a prisoner. He was something else, something more. And what came next would decide the fate of all. The silence in the hall grew heavy. No one dared to move, no one dared to speak. The alien commander stood frozen, her claws still raised but no longer sure of their purpose. Her eyes were locked on the human's chest where the glowing scars burned brighter with every breath. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, slow but powerful, filling the air with strange energy. The human officer stood tall. Even though his chains rattled against his wrists, he looked calm, almost too calm, as if the glowing scars were not a curse but a part of him. The alien soldiers shifted uneasily. Their weapons clutched tight, their nerves stretched thin. Some looked to their commander for orders, but she gave none. Even she was caught between fear and fascination. Finally, she found her voice. "What is this power?" she demanded, her tone sharp yet trembling underneath. "Tell me what you are." Her words echoed across the hall, but the human did not answer at once. He let the silence hang, drawing every eye, every breath, into the weight of the moment. At last he spoke, his voice steady. "This is the truth you wanted to see," he said. "They broke me to build this. They thought it would save them. They thought it would make me more than human." His words sent a wave of confusion through the alien ranks. Some whispered in disbelief, others whispered in awe. The commander's eyes narrowed, her anger pushing past her fear. "You expect me to believe your kind created this? You expect me to believe they gave a soldier such a weapon?" The human's faint smile returned, but it was not a smile of pride. It was the smile of someone who carried pain too heavy to hide. "You don't understand," he replied. "This isn't a gift. It's a cage." The glowing scars pulsed brighter. As if reacting to his words, the light crawled up his arms, faint lines glowing beneath his skin like veins of fire. The air buzzed with energy, and for a brief moment, the chains around his wrists shivered as though they might snap. Gasps spread through the alien soldiers, and a few stepped back. Fear began to grow. Stronger than their loyalty to orders, the commander forced herself to step closer. She could not show weakness, not now. She leaned in until her face was inches from his, her voice low but firm. "If this power is real, then control it. Show me what it means." The human's eyes glowed faintly. "The same rhythm as the scars," he whispered back. "You don't want me to do that." The tension snapped. One of the alien soldiers shouted, "Commander, we must kill him now before it's too late." Another raised his weapon. Hands shaking, the commander turned sharply, her voice cutting like a blade. "Stand down!" Her order froze the soldiers, but their fear did not vanish. They stared at the human as if he were not a prisoner but a storm trapped inside a man's body. The human lowered his head for a moment. When he looked up again, his voice carried sorrow, not pride. "You think this power is mine," he said, "but it's not. It burns me every day. It eats at me from inside. I am not more than human. I am less." The commander's breath caught, her heart pounding with something she did not understand. Pity was a weakness she had never allowed herself to feel. But staring at him now, she felt it rising against her will. The scars flared once more, and for a moment, the light filled the hall. The alien soldiers shielded their eyes, some crying out in fear. The glow faded as quickly as it had come. Leaving behind silence and trembling hearts, the commander stepped back. Shaken despite herself, her voice was softer now, uncertain. "If you are a cage, then what are you holding inside?" The human closed his eyes. His voice was barely above a whisper, yet it carried through the hall. "I don't know anymore," he said. "All I know is that when they made me..." Something else woke up. The commander felt her blood run cold. She had faced many enemies in war, but none had ever spoken words that made her doubt her place in the galaxy. For the first time, she feared the war was not between her people and the humans. It was between all of them and whatever lived inside this man. The soldiers began to murmur again, their fear spreading like fire. Some called him a monster. Others called him a weapon. One young soldier whispered what none dared to say aloud. "Maybe he is the future." The commander turned and silenced them with a glare. But even her own thoughts betrayed her, echoing the same question. The human lifted his chained hands, the scars glowing faintly beneath his skin. He looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of soldiers who had once seen him as prey. Now he looked like something untouchable. His voice carried the weight of both warning and promise. "You wanted to see what was under the uniform," he said. "Now you cannot forget it." The commander felt the truth of his words strike deep. The image of those glowing scars would never leave her mind. It was no longer just a secret revealed. It was a shadow stretching over everything she thought she knew, and in the silent hall every soldier, every voice, every heart understood the same thing. The human was not simply one of them anymore. He was the edge of something greater, something no one could yet control. The glowing scars still pulsed on the human's chest. The alien commander could not look away, her mind caught between fear and questions. But the human's eyes drifted somewhere else, far from the hall, far from the chains. His thoughts pulled him backward into a past he had tried to bury. It began in a dark room, cold and silent. White lights burned overhead, sharp and unforgiving. He remembered lying on a metal table, straps holding him down. Strangers in uniforms walked around him, their faces hidden behind masks. Their voices were low, urgent, filled with a mix of excitement and fear. "This subject has the highest survival rate yet," one voice had whispered. "Push the procedure, he can take it," another replied. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the drugs in his blood kept him heavy and numb. Only his eyes moved, darting around in panic. That was when he saw the machines. They were not human machines alone. Wires twisted with strange alien metal, glowing with an unnatural light. Symbols etched into the steel pulsed like veins, alive and cruel. This was not just human science, it was stolen technology. Something taken from the stars and twisted into something worse. The first cut burned deeper than fire. He felt it even through the drugs. His body trembling. They were carving into him. Placing something beneath his skin, he heard the whir of drills, the hiss of steam, the hum of alien energy. Every sound etched into his memory. Pain tore through him until he thought he would break. But the voices around him never stopped. "Stabilizing, keep going," one said. "The energy is bonding, look at the readings," another cried. And then he saw the first glow. It started as a faint shimmer beneath his skin. At first he thought it was the lights above, playing tricks, but the glow spread, lines of fire carving across his chest. The pain was unbearable, and yet his body refused to die. Somewhere deep inside, something had awakened. He remembered the moment clearly. The scientist stepped back, staring at him not like a man, but like a creation. "He survived," one whispered in awe. "No," another said. "He is something else now." And from that moment, he was no longer just human. The memory shifted. He saw himself later, standing in a training chamber. He remembered the feel of the scars burning when they pushed him too far. They made him fight until his body broke, then watched as it healed itself. They tested his strength, his speed, his endurance. Every day they pushed him closer to the edge. He hated them, but worse, he hated himself, because part of him could feel the power. It was like a beast under his skin, clawing to get out. When he struck, walls cracked. When he roared, machines trembled, and yet, with every use, he felt less like the man he had once been. In the flashback, he saw the faces of others too. Other soldiers strapped to tables. Other experiments. Most did not survive. Some screamed until their voices broke, then fell silent forever. He had lived where they had died, and that survival was his curse back in the present hall. The human's eyes were distant, haunted. The commander saw the change in him, the flicker of pain across his face. She realized he was not only dangerous because of his power, he was dangerous because of what had been done to him. A weapon forged in cruelty, not choice. His voice cut through the silence, heavy with memory. "They broke me," he said, his tone flat and raw. "They took me apart, piece by piece, and filled me with something that was never ours. Something stolen, something alien," the soldiers murmured. Shocked by his confession, even the commander felt her claws tremble. She stepped closer, her eyes sharp. "Why would your own kind do this to you?" she asked. The human laughed, but there was no joy in it. Only bitterness. They wanted to win. That was all that mattered. Not the cost, not the lives. Just victory. He lowered his head, and I was their tool. The scars on his chest flared as if to prove his words true. The commander felt a strange chill run through her body. She had always thought of humans as fragile, stubborn, reckless. But this man before her was something else. He was the result of desperation so deep it had turned cruelty into science. The hall seemed smaller now, the air tighter. The alien soldiers stared with wide eyes, their fear growing. Some whispered prayers in their own tongue. Others looked at the commander, waiting for her to end it before it grew worse, but the commander remained still. Unable to decide, the human raised his eyes again. For a brief moment she thought she saw something inside them. Not anger, not pride, but sorrow mixed with fire. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "But now it's all I am." And his words hung in the hall like a shadow. The flashback faded, but its weight lingered. The alien commander now understood. The man in chains was not only a soldier, not only an enemy, he was a survivor of something darker than war. And the truth of what he carried inside him was far more terrifying than any weapon. The hall remained heavy with silence. The human's voice still echoed in the ears of the alien soldiers. He stood there, his chest glowing faintly, his chains clinking softly with every breath. The commander's eyes locked on him. But now her rage had shifted into something far more complicated. It was no longer simple anger, it was fear, it was doubt. And it was a dangerous curiosity. She paced slowly in front of him, her claws tapping against the floor. "You are telling me," she said carefully, "that your people made you into this. They took alien power and placed it inside you." Her words were sharp, but her voice carried hesitation. The human nodded once. "They didn't ask," he said. "They decided, and I became their weapon." Gasps spread among the alien soldiers. Some whispered angrily, "He lies." Others shivered, their eyes glued to the glowing scars that could not be denied. The commander silenced them with a single glare. But even she could not silence the storm building inside her mind. She stepped closer again, lowering her voice. "Do you understand what this means?" she said. "If what you claim is true, then humans are not only desperate, they are dangerous. They will do anything, even break their own kind, for victory." The human looked at her with tired eyes. "You finally see the truth," he replied. "The greatest threat to me was never you. It was them." The words hit her like a blade. She had always thought of humans as reckless fighters, a race too fragile to survive the Great War. But this was something else. This was a species willing to burn itself to ashes just to rise with fire again. For the first time, she felt the sharp edge of respect for the prisoner in front of her. The scars across his chest flickered again, their light crawling up toward his shoulders. The soldiers stepped back, gripping their weapons tighter. Fear thickened in the air. But the human did not move, he only stood there, his voice steady as he spoke. "You see me as a weapon, but I am also a warning." The commander tilted her head, narrowing her eyes. "A warning of what?" she asked. The human's gaze hardened. "Of what happens when survival becomes more important than humanity," he said. "I was once a man, I had a name, a life, but that was stripped away, and now all that remains is this." The commander's heart beat faster, though she tried not to show it. This was no ordinary prisoner. He was living proof of human desperation, a truth so dark it could break alliances, or forge them. If her people learned the full story, they might fear humans more than ever. But if humans had many like him, then war itself could tip into chaos. Her claws flexed against her palm. She realized she stood on dangerous ground. If she killed him now, she would bury the secret. But she would also kill the only proof of it if she let him live. She might uncover truths that her people were not ready to face. Her choice was not between life and death, but between lies and truth. The human broke her thoughts, his voice softer now. "You want to kill me? I can see it in your eyes, but if you do, you will never know the whole story." The commander growled low, frustrated at how easily he had read her. "Do not test me, human," she hissed. "Your life hangs by a single thread." But inside, her doubt only grew stronger. The soldiers around them grew restless. One shouted, "Commander, he is too dangerous. End him before he breaks free." Another argued, "No, he carries knowledge. If we destroy him, we destroy what he knows." Their voices rose in conflict, and in that chaos the human stood like a flame in the storm. Silent but unyielding, the commander raised her claw to silence them all. Her gaze returned to the human, her voice sharp. "If I spare you, you will tell me everything. No more riddles, no more silence. You will show me the truth behind these scars." The human's faint smile returned, but his eyes carried sorrow. "You think you want the truth," he said, "but truth is heavier than chains." The commander's chest tightened. She was used to commanding soldiers, to breaking enemies, to holding power in every room she walked into. But with this man, she felt the ground shift beneath her. She realized that by tearing open his uniform, she had not only exposed his body, she had exposed something far greater, something that could break her people's view of the war. The soldiers waited, silent and afraid. The glowing scars still pulsed, a heartbeat of light in the dim hall, and in that strange glow, the commander saw her own reflection, not the reflection of a conqueror, but of a leader who now stood on the edge of a truth too large to control. She whispered the words almost to herself. "You are not a soldier anymore," she said. "You are something else, something dangerous, something that should not exist." The human's chains rattled softly as he raised his head. "I know," he answered, "but I exist anyway." The commander felt the weight of his words settle over her like a shadow. For the first time, she understood that keeping him alive was not only a risk, it was a gamble that could decide the future of her people, and maybe the galaxy itself. The hall felt like a storm waiting to break. Alien soldiers shifted nervously, their weapons aimed but their hands trembling. The commander stood tall in front of the human, her claws flexing with indecision. She had faced countless battles, but never one like this. This was not a fight of blades or blasters. This was a battle of truth and fear. The human's scars glowed faintly, their light pulsing in rhythm with his steady heartbeat. He stood still, calm, as though the chains around his wrists were nothing but decoration. The silence stretched until one soldier finally broke it. "Commander," he shouted, "he is no prisoner, he is a monster. End him before it is too late," others joined. Voices rising like waves crashing against rock. "Kill him now," one barked. "He carries something unnatural," another hissed. Their fear was spreading, turning to anger. The commander raised her claw sharply. Silencing them all, her voice was cold, but inside her heart was restless. "No one moves without my order," she said. The human lifted his head slowly, his eyes meeting hers. "You see," he said, "they fear me not because of what I have done, but because of what I might do." His words cut through the air like steel. The commander's jaw tightened because she knew it was true. Her soldiers were no longer united. They were divided by fear. The glowing scars flared brighter for a moment, casting strange shadows on the walls. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some soldiers backed away. Others held their weapons tighter. But the human only sighed, the glow dimming again. "You think this power makes me proud," he said. "But it burns me every moment of my life." The commander stepped closer, her voice low and sharp. "Then why live with it?" she demanded. The human's faint smile returned, bitter and cold. "Because dying would be too easy," he said, "and I refuse to give them the victory of seeing me break." His words struck her harder than she expected. He was not boasting, he was enduring. The soldiers erupted again, their fear clashing with their loyalty. "He is dangerous," one cried. "He must be destroyed," shouted another. But one younger soldier spoke differently, his voice trembling yet strong. "If he is telling the truth, then killing him would blind us to it. We would throw away knowledge our enemies hid from us." The hall filled with arguments, shouts, and fear. The commander realized her control was slipping. If she ordered the human's death, half her soldiers might obey, but the other half might resist. Blood could spill not only from their enemy, but from each other, and that thought filled her with dread. The human stood silently through the chaos, his eyes scanning the crowd. Finally, he spoke again, his voice calm but heavy. "You wanted victory, so you made me. But what you see now is not victory. It is the cost." The room fell silent at his words. Even the commander felt her claws pause mid-motion. She stared at him, seeing not just the scars on his chest, but the weight in his eyes. He was no ordinary man, but he was also no willing monster. He was something in between, something forced, something dangerous, and now she had to decide what to do with him. The commander drew in a slow breath. Her instincts told her to kill him, to end the threat before it grew. But another voice whispered in her mind, a voice she had never heard before. A voice that said keeping him alive might be the only way to understand the human's true strength. The choice tore at her sharper than any blade. The soldiers watched her, waiting for the order. The human waited too, his chains rattling softly as he shifted his stance. He looked at her not with fear but with a strange patience, as if he already knew the weight of the decision she carried, as if he had stood at this edge many times before. She lowered her claw slowly, her eyes locked on him. "You will live," she said at last. Her voice steady but cold, gasps broke out across the hall. The soldiers shouted in protest, their voices sharp with outrage. But the commander silenced them with a roar. "My word is final," she declared. The human tilted his head, a faint look of surprise in his eyes. He had expected death, perhaps even welcomed it. But instead he had been spared. The commander stepped close, her voice low enough for only him to hear. "You live not because I trust you, human. You live because the truth you carry may change everything." The human's reply was soft, but it carried through the silence. Then be ready, Commander, he said. Because the truth will not only change everything, it will break everything you thought you knew. The commander's chest tightened, but she did not look away. Her soldiers were restless, her own mind torn. But she had made her choice, and now she would face the storm it would bring. The turning point had come, and nothing could undo it. The commander's voice still echoed through the hall. Her soldiers struggled to accept her choice, their anger and fear clashing in whispers. Some glared at the human, others glared at her. But no one dared to disobey her command, not yet. The human stood tall, his scars faintly glowing beneath his skin. He watched the crowd with quiet eyes, reading their fear like open pages. He could feel the tension pressing against him. Thick and heavy, but he did not speak. He waited. He knew storms always revealed the weakest walls. Then the sound came, alarms, sharp and sudden. Red light flashed through the hall, warning sirens screaming from hidden speakers. The alien soldiers stiffened, their weapons raised, eyes darting in panic. The commander's claws tensed, her instincts sharpening. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. A figure rushed into the hall. Another officer dressed in high rank. His armor gleamed silver. His eyes hard and cold, he moved with confidence. Pushing past the soldiers, "Commander!" he shouted. "You are being deceived." The commander turned sharply, her voice like steel. "Explain yourself," she demanded. The officer pointed at the human with fury. "That creature is not only a threat to us, he is a liar. He hides his true purpose. He was planted here to break us from within." The soldiers gasped, some raising their weapons again. The hall filled with shouts, fear turning into anger. The human only shook his head slowly, his voice calm. "Not me," he said. "Look closer at the one who speaks." The commander's eyes narrowed. She knew this officer. He had served at her side for years, but something in his voice, something in the way he moved, stirred doubt in her. "Bring proof," she demanded, "or keep your silence," the officer sneered, his face twisting with disdain. "My proof is his existence. Can you not see, Commander, he is an abomination?" The human's scars glowed brighter as he spoke again. "You fear me because I am different, but what about him? He is the reason you brought me here in chains." Murmurs spread through the soldiers, confusion mixing with fear. The commander's claws clenched tight. "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice low but dangerous. The human lifted his chained hands, the light from his scars casting eerie shadows across the hall. "He wanted this," he said. "He fed you lies about me. He twisted the truth so you would see me as a monster." The commander's breath caught, her gaze snapping back to the officer. Her heart pounded with unease. Was this true or another trick? The officer stepped forward, fury blazing in his eyes. "Do not listen to this creature, Commander. He seeks to divide us." But his voice cracked just slightly, and in that crack, the commander heard something she could not ignore. Fear. Real fear. The kind that came not from facing an enemy, but from being exposed. The human's voice grew sharper, stronger. "Ask him where the reports came from. Ask him who gave the orders to bring me here. Ask him why the evidence against me always came through his hands." The commander's claws dug into her palm. Her eyes burned as she turned to the officer. "Answer him," she commanded. The officer hesitated. His jaw tight, the hall grew silent, every soldier watching. The human's scars pulsed brighter. As if feeding on the truth, the commander stepped closer, her voice rising. "Answer me now!" The officer finally snapped, his calm mask shattering. "You are a fool," he spat. "Do you not see war feeds us? War makes us strong, without it we are nothing. And this human, this weapon, was the key to keeping it alive." The soldiers gasped in horror, their voices rising in chaos. The commander's claws shook with rage. "You betrayed your people," she growled. The officer laughed bitterly. "No, I saved us with fear, with lies. I kept the fire burning without the war. We would fall into weakness, we would crumble," the soldiers shouted, some in anger, some in despair. The human stood silently, his glowing scars reflecting in their terrified eyes. The commander raised her claws high, her voice shaking with fury. "You are no savior," she roared. "You are a traitor." The officer drew his weapon in desperation, pointing it at both her and the human. "If you will not see reason, then I will destroy you both," he shouted. Chaos erupted, soldiers scattering, weapons raised. The betrayal was no longer hidden. It had turned into blood and fire. The human's chains rattled as he stepped forward, his scars blazing like fire beneath his skin. The commander glanced at him, her eyes burning with anger and resolve for the first time. They were no longer enemies standing apart. They were two warriors facing the same betrayal. And the hall was about to become a battlefield. The traitor's weapon gleamed under the red warning lights. Its barrel swung between the commander and the human. His voice was sharp with madness. "You will both die. And the war will live forever." The soldiers froze, torn between their duty and their fear. The hall, once filled with order, now pulsed with chaos. The commander's claws flexed, ready to strike, but before she could move, the human stepped forward. His chains rattled as the glowing scars across his chest blazed with sudden fury. The traitor fired, a shot of energy cutting through the air. But the human twisted aside, faster than any soldier had ever seen. The blast scorched the wall, leaving molten marks behind. Gasps erupted from the crowd. The human lunged forward, the chains still on his wrists but moving like weapons of their own. He swung one, the metal links crashing into the traitor's arm. Knocking the weapon away, the commander seized the moment, roaring as she leapt at her former officer. The traitor fought back with savage desperation. He drew a blade, striking at her, sparks flying as claw met steel. The hall filled with the sound of clashing metal and roars of rage. Soldiers hesitated, unsure if they should join the commander or aid the traitor. The human scars glowed brighter, lighting the hall like fire. Another group of soldiers broke from the line, raising their weapons at both the commander and the human. The traitor shouted, "Kill them now!" Blasts of energy streaked through the air. The human raised his chained arms, and the scars flared with a shield of light. The energy bolts struck and fizzled, their power swallowed by the strange force within him. The soldiers gasped, fear spreading faster than fire. "He can block weapons," one cried. "He's unstoppable," another whispered. The commander used their hesitation, striking the traitor across the chest, sending him crashing into the floor, but he rolled and sprang up again, his blade slashing, his eyes burning with madness. The hall was no longer a place of order. It was a battlefield. Soldiers clashed with each other, some loyal to their commander, others still blinded by the traitor's lies. The human moved through the storm, his chains striking like whips, his scars glowing brighter with every motion. He fought not only to survive, but to keep the commander alive, for in that moment, their survival was bound together. The commander ducked under a soldier's strike. Her claws slicing the weapon apart, she spun and slammed another into the ground, her fury unshaken. Beside her, the human roared, the glow of his scars lighting his face with terrible fire. He tore through soldiers with speed and strength they could not match. Every move reminded them that he was no ordinary man. The traitor saw his forces falter and screamed, "You fools, he will destroy us all, can't you see? He is the real enemy." But his words no longer carried the same weight. The soldiers saw the truth in the way the human fought. He was not their predator. He was their shield. The commander locked eyes with the human in the middle of the chaos. A silent understanding passed between them. Enemies yesterday, allies today. Their battle had woven them into something neither expected. Together they pressed forward, cutting through the traitor's loyalists. The hall shook with the storm of their fury. The traitor, blood staining his armor, retreated toward the far doors. But the commander's voice roared across the chamber. "Do not run, coward! Face the justice of your people!" he snarled, raising his blade again. "If I fall, I will take you all with me." In desperation, he smashed a control panel on the wall. The ground trembled as hidden turrets dropped from the ceiling, their barrels glowing with deadly light. The soldiers shouted in panic, diving for cover. The commander raised her claws, ready to strike, but the turrets locked onto her. The traitor laughed wildly. "This hall will be your tomb," but the human stepped forward, his scars burning brighter than ever before. The glow spread across his body, his chains cracking under the strain. The air buzzed with raw energy, humming like thunder waiting to break. The turrets fired in unison, beams of destruction slicing through the air. The human roared, slamming his chained fists together. The light from his scars exploded outward, forming a shield of pure energy. The beam struck it, bending and shattering against the glowing wall, the hall filled with blinding light. The soldiers covering their eyes in fear. When the glow faded, the turrets were nothing but smoking metal, and the human stood tall, his chest burning like a living star. The traitor's face twisted with rage and horror. "You should not exist," he spat. The human's eyes locked on him, his voice steady and fierce. "Maybe not," he said, "but I do, and I will not let you win." The commander stood at his side, her claws dripping with blood and resolve. Together they advanced on the traitor. The soldiers, now seeing clearly who the true enemy was, rallied behind them. The chamber shook with their cries. Their loyalty restored, the traitor's last grip on power crumbled before their eyes, and in that moment the battle turned.